Hey everyone, I'd bring you your daily update for BTC SOL, market cap, liquidity, all the other bits and pieces that will hopefully lead to us trading in the right direction. So let's start with liquidity. So the weekend has done a really good job of basically just building up liquidity both sides on the one day. So this is kind of what they want to do. They want to make sure that there's plenty of close proximity liquidation. So there's just as many people right now in the last 24 hours who believe that week is going to be bearish, and just as many people believing the week is going to be bullish. So looks like some pretty good liquidity down there into the 170 to 175 sort of area on for a bit of a quick dip. Likewise, up there to sort of that 188 area, maybe a little higher if they were to push up on SOL. And BTC seems to be down to about 115 and up to 120, maybe a little higher, 121. Okay, so that's for the short term. And so if we look at 7-day, 7-day has flipped very bullish. So lots of liquidity to the downside to go grab. The upside targets don't really change much, so that's when you start to look at it and get a bit concerned about, do they do a quick short squeeze then a dump? Because it sort of shows over the last 7 days there's less and less shorts coming in and more longs. So you've got, if you really wanted to take all that liquidity out on the 7-day longs, you'd be taking BTC all the way down to sort of like 111 or lower again, and SOL down into the 160s or lower, just to get rid of it all, even though the upside targets, like I say, don't really change. You look at 30-day. So 30-day is the only one really showing more shorts in play on BTC, and it's the same. Most of it would be gone if they went to 121. If they wanted really to wipe it out, then they'd be spiking up to 123, 124k to wipe it all out. So that would mean basically revisiting 200. If they revisited sort of like 195, that gets rid of just about everything, and then a little bit more up to 200. And then of course it would look extremely imbalanced to the other side, and that's when those targets down at 150, 156, etc. That all that shows up on the screen actually then start to look like they'd be in scope, because you can imagine these lines would these sort of weightings as such on BTC would be down here, and then relative that one, because the scale changes, relative that one would then be really high, and same thing on SOL, that would come all the way down, and then relative that'd be off the charts. If they took all that, it would be so out of balance that it would just look like it's going to dump big time. So that's where liquidity's sitting. Still kind of looks a bit to me like a spike up and then a big reset dump down, maybe that final flush. Yeah, from a short-term perspective, 190 down to 171. I'm still waiting on that monthly target around that 186 mark to get hit, but it poked up just a little bit above that, like 187, 188. It has pretty much done everything. So, see, all right, over to the charts. So, SOLBTC Strength on the 1 day started to pull back a little bit. So, if the day ends up closing up, it actually moves this interior trend up to there and creates resistance, which isn't necessarily a good thing if you want to actually see it go up to that 163 sort of level. If it closes down, then the next day could close up and create a hold level to attack the trend. So it's not necessarily a bad thing if it closes down on the daily. Which then sort of lines up a little bit with the weekly, because the weekly has run into that hold level there, and at this stage, as long as it closes above 14873, then it's closing above that break level. and then it could just have a bit of a retracement off the weekly hold level, maybe dive back through the break level. It is a hard close break level, so it should be support. So yeah, it might dive back down and then be able to push back up. Still targeting really the 1.6 sort of level for SOLBTC Strength, and the monthly hasn't really done too much. It's got a range trend up here at about 1.718, and it's more or less just hovering on trend support. Hasn't lost it, hasn't really got back over it yet. Hasn't gone and touched its interior downtrend. It's very much like the actual price at the moment. It just seems to be waiting, but there's a lot of time to go on that. As far as strength of risk assets goes, the dominance, what we're seeing is now creep back up, which is not terribly uncommon. Like if you go through break levels, you normally retrace to break levels. What we were hoping for is that it would stay under the 66.4 sort of area for close, and it may still push back down before close. So closing under the break level then allows it to sort of retest and then continue down. But if it pulls back up inside the break level, then it's going to probably try to go back to one of these trends, and that might get it back up to that sort of 67% level again, which isn't going to be as good for risk assets. So hopefully that just pulls down and closes under the 66.4, and then just continues to dump on down. That would be ideal. See how that plays out. Totals are overextended again. I mean, they have rejected off their break levels. They're closing under their break levels. So the next logical thing for those to do is a pullback. So that could be all the way back to this sort of area down here on the 1 day, around 355. So it drops 6 trillion off the totals of, and this is just totals of risk assets. So it's minus all the stables, which tend to cloud things if you're trying to trade risk assets. Doesn't really matter how many stables they pump into an ecosystem. If they're getting pumped in there because PayPal has arrangements to pay people via stables and that kind of stuff, it's not that it's actually getting transferred into risk assets. So, which is ultimately what we're trading. So, so this is just your total minus the main stables, and it's overextended. It looks like it's going to break trend today, which would shift the trend up more to about the 370s. So then you could take another swipe at that, hit that, and then get your rejection. So see how that goes. Mind you, actually, it probably needs another day to properly break that trend. And over on the 3-day, it's just hovering above trend, not broken, rejecting. So pretty much the same thing, really. It's almost like most of these charts are basically saying that there's going to be a pullback, but it just doesn't seem to want to start. So over to SOL. 1 day SOL, if it stays where it is in the next hour and 45 minutes, it's going to move the interior trend, and then that would sort of be up around that 140. Sorry, that'd be up around that 184, 185 sort of area. Still expecting this to go and hit the monthly, which is up around 186. So maybe it pushes through that, and then over that next 24 hours rejects back down and retests these 170 levels down here, and that would be really confluent with where the 1 day liquidity is, also where the 1 day range trend is, which is sitting about 171, 172. So if you think about the daily liquidity, our trend is currently here on the interior, and we're going to hard close that almost certainly today. But if we have a big wick like that, we move it up to there, at which point this becomes resistance. All these levels down here in the 170s are our support levels. If we spike through that resistance, maybe for half the day even, go up, hit some kind of other targets that it's got obligation to hit, and then we could always retrace back down to the support, and that takes out that lower liquidity. And that might just be that final part of the weekend trap. If it is a trap to basically wipe out, induce longs and wipe out those longs, then typically on the Monday you'll see a little bit more continuation, and then it's Tuesday when the trend normally reverses, and then that could come back down to there. So we'll see how that goes. 3-day, very similar. Close today is going to move trend. If it pushes up a little bit more, then it'll be opening the trend on. It'll be opening the candle on the trend. This is also getting back above a couple of range trends, other time frame range trends, but it's so it's looking a little bit more bullish on the 3-day, but you've still got resistance up here around 200. So if it was to push through that and then shoot up to that, that would then be a complete and total wipeout of in that higher time frame liquidity that exists at the moment. So back to there, we'll see how that closes. If it pulls back a little bit, even where would it have to come back to? It has to come back to about 180 really to be solidly under that new trend. It would be quite bearish if it came below 176 before close, because that puts it under that range as well. But I don't think that's what it's going to do. I think it's going to probably close above that lower range and either on or about that trend, maybe a little bit lower, and then work through and then bounce down. Yeah, confluence again with some of these older range trends that are coming through here. So this is going to be a hard close above this range trend that is running through at about 170s. So going down to retest that, not out of the question. So that's if it does it from above that one, then it's effectively a dive through there and then back up again. So yeah, everything is in place for them to take the upper and the lower liquidity. And then the weekly close, which is great one for today. We're back into that annoying little spot, which is between that weekly range there, which is currently sitting at about 183 point. That's sitting at around 183.5, but we're above that weekly range, which is sitting at about 180. So just remember a couple of weeks ago saying it'd be really irritating if we just get stuck in this little area here. It seems that it's deviated that way to the upside, it's deviated to the downside, and then it just keeps on coming back to here. So we are hopefully going to close over the break levels again. So that's 179.5 and 179.3. So it's good and bullish if we close over there. The more times we can close over those break levels, the better. They are both hard close break levels, but they just got rejection off the range trend, and so this range trend that was coming through here, it pushed up through it, jumped back down as a rejection, found the main trend again, pushed back up to the hold level, and that's where we are now. So effectively that was our short and our long, and now we're looking at, do we close under this range trend again, maybe reject the backside of it, but then maybe we even just hold that. Hard to say, but if it does come all the way back down to this trend, it's sitting, on a weekly perspective, it's sitting down there at about 164. If it comes all the way back down. And then if it was to dive it, so we say we did get a bit of bearish news or a decent sort of pullback on BTC, if it was to dive it, then it would be down to 153. So these targets are definitely still there. In a perfect world, a dive from this sort of level all the way down to there is just an amazing long opportunity because it will just retrace, so it'll hit that down there in the 150s and it'll come back, $16 or $13 almost straight away up to these sort of levels, and then it should then come back up above the trend. So yeah, it'd be a pretty good opportunity if we actually managed to get in on that one. Over to the monthly. Monthly target is sitting currently at 186.3. Looks like it's still in a bit of an uptrend on the 1 hour. So let's have a look at that. Yep, correct. So what happened here? If you're trying to sort of learn how to take some of these lower time frame scalps, because you got this big candle that's come straight through and engulfed this entire range, and nothing's retested it yet until here. So that was an obvious sort of target. Once it bounced off this trend, stayed inside that range, it was really looking at going up and retesting the backside of that range. So these are just your $1, $2, $3, $4 leverage scalps that you can take. There's also a range trend running through there. So I think I pointed that one out to someone in the Discord, saying that it was about this time, and I said, hey, that's going to slow it down, but if it gets back over that trend, then it's going to target this level. So there was your hard close of the trend, and then the target moved up to there. So that was your first. You long that, you TP that, you wait for the rejection. The rejection comes back to trend, it moves. So the backside of a range is typically designed to move a trend. So this is your uptrend here, and this is the rejection of it, and that's the trend it moves. And then this is the test of the trend, and then the target is now going to be the front side. So it looks like it's working its way up to 184, which is all just the lower time frame trying to come back up here and meet the obligations of the higher time frame. But you can just scalp all these bounces between trends and holds, front side, back sides. Once you learn all this stuff, it's a money printer really. Let's see what else is going on. So we had our 2-month rejection. I'm not quite sure what that found as support. Always bothers me a little bit, because realistically the support is down here in that 140 area. So yeah, not quite sure what that found as support. It used the hold level at 147 previously, which was there. So this is the point of creation, this blue line. Immediately after, in the next couple of days, it accumulated on the hold level, and it went up and it hunted the trend, which is exactly what it should do. But it is overextended in the local trend, and really isn't. I don't know exactly what is creating that bounce, but it's not something on a 2-month scale. So maybe that's going to be. Where have we got? Yeah. Maybe that is actually going to just roll over at some point and then come all the way back down here. So that does actually mean that there are some potentially lower targets than the 150s. Okay, over to BTC. So BTC is sitting up above its daily trend. It's extended above its daily break levels. It's not hard closed. As you can see, it's not the first time it's gone up above its daily trend. So you've got, there's a third time it's opened a candle. Doesn't mean it can't just roll over and come down. The difference in this instance, though, is that we've actually got a break level to retest. We've got a hold level to support, and we're still holding the daily uptrend. So these other times, it was clearly in a position of rolling over to dump. It wasn't creating hold levels to the downside, and it was hitting the trend and then coming back and hitting the break levels. And then eventually, when all those ranges collapsed, that's how we got our dive down here to 111. So on the daily, the structure is much better on this move up. It's not hard closed that range yet. It's got 1, 2, 3 break levels to have to get through if it actually wants to have a sustainable push up. And it's got these ones, these two areas below here for potential retest. So this is sort of saying it could easily dip back to 117.5 or 116.6. And if it was to spike up to sort of 119.8 or 120.1 or even 120.8, it's getting straight into break level rejections. So it does sort of look like it wants to maybe close over trend, retest, pump up, dump down. The actual range trend for this is sitting down at about 113, 114k on the daily. So nothing stops it from breaking all the way back down to there if it rejects off these higher levels. Look at the 2-day close today. Similar thing, extended above trend, 119.8, 120.8 would be the rejection levels. And it's actually extended through 2 trends. So 115 would be the target if it was to drop back down. And that's the number that's been popping up a lot in the last few days, 115. Now we look at the 3-day. 3 days on the wrong side of the trend. So it's just begging to die. So 120.9 again would be its break level. So it would have to close and hard close 120.9 to have a sustainable move up. This will move the trend today. It'll move to that position. So if it holds on to this, it's going to open the next candle in a decent spot to try and push that break level. If it was to pull back in the last parts of the day and open under the move trend, then the rejection will come either straight away or push and then definite dump. So just need to keep an eye on that level as to how it closes in relation to that trend. And where it is right now is okay. Only would really need to pull back $300 or $400 from where it is now to be cleanly on or under that trend. If this takes a dive, sometimes the whole point of moving a trend is actually because you don't want to have to deal with it. So if they wanted to hit these levels, 110, 109, 108 down here, and retest some of this, it's actually, there's some kind of range trend going through there about 110 as well. If they wanted to retest any of that, the key thing is that the backside of this trend can actually act as support. But if you move it and close under it, then it's resistance, and then there is no support. And so that's how you can suddenly drop from 118 down to 110. Because if it was to drop on the next candle, realistically, the first thing that can act as support is going to be something like the break level there at 111.8 again. And really nothing stops it from diving the break level, hitting the range trend, pulling back up, and then taking the next leg up. So some of these levels just still look like they are waiting very patiently to take out leverage effectively. So keep an eye on that one. See how that closes today. And weekly, same sort of thing on the weekly. We're going to get a trend on the weekly. It's kind of a rolling over trend, much like what we saw before the last fall on BTC, except this is a higher time frame versus the lower time frame. If it closes exactly where it is, once again, it's going to open in a pretty good position to come up and hit that 121 level, which would be a great sweep of all that long liquidity. If it pulls back and, any sort of level, same numbers really, about 118.3 or lower. If it pulls back to anything like that, then the trend gets created and it's underneath, and then 115.8 be sort of that interior, and then you got the range trend coming through there at 112.7, and then this backside here at 110.6 has not had a retest, and it's had two hard closes above it when this candle closes, and nothing has retested it. That just screams trap. It's these things get retested, whether they're to the upside or whether it's to the downside. It's just really a matter of time, and they're starting to pile up a little bit when it comes to the weekly on BTC. So you've got 96.4 never got retested, 88.7 never got retested. So these are going to be bear market targets if they don't get retested in some kind of dump soon. So yeah, I'd suggest just keep an eye on these levels: 110, 108, 106, and just trade with caution, because if it does start to roll over on the weekly, which is sort of what it's looking to do, then it's going to be because it wants to come down and check out some of these, and it will do it, when it's got some form of confluence. Like if it wanted to retest 110, it's a good time to do it now, because it could dive and retest this range trend that's coming through here at about 112.6. It could do it all at once. It could dive down through that, hit that, and then go back up. And then you've also got next week, you'd have a crossover of this weekly range that's been up here. This has been the one that's ultimately been the support for a long time for BTC, ever since it recaptured it around 102. It's always sort of held it. It's had a dive there, and it's got, they could look to retest that 108 level or even 106 level in the next week if they reject down from there. Don't know whether they'll come all the way down here to the 96s or to the 88s. They'd really have to stay under this weekly trend. They'd have to break it, and that would allow them to do it. Or they have to do one of these types of, we've seen them before, these sort of Trump ginormous dives and then back up again, only to come back down and start to retest levels that are back here. So yeah, we'll see how that one goes. And monthly, which still has 21 days, is still pushing up resistance. The trend is sitting. Look, where's the monthly trend sitting? So the one that it bounced off is sitting there at about 117.6, and the bigger one, which is maintaining the uptrend, is down there at 113.6. Yeah, if it does reject back trend, your monthly levels, if it really takes a dump to retest the break level there, it's 102, and if it completely loses the monthly trend at some point, which is going to happen in the future at some point, then it'll be back to 84.3. So for the now, this is still looking to push its way out. It'll be interesting to see if we get some kind of volume candle come in, because this just looks really bad. Like when you look at your monthly volume on BTC and it's going like that, down, down, down. At the same time, your little drawing tool. Never a good sign. I mean, this is doing this, and this is doing this. And so price just seems to be on a tear, and volume is diminishing. So it's not the greatest look. And that's about it for today. So personally, I'm just looking to see if we get to that SOL target on the monthly, which was looking to see if we sort of get a spike up into that 186 trend. And just I suppose we can take some scalps on the 1 hour. Just trends to hold. So if it closes back up inside this 1 hour range up here, comes and touches the base of it, it'll get back to there. And if it touches the trend, it can more or less just keep bouncing off this trend until it hits that 184.9 level. So you can just take little pullbacks and then long it, and just every time it pulls back, just keep on scalping it until it jumps up to there, and then after that, forget about the 1 hour, because that's job done. The purpose of that level on the 1 hour up there, which is 184.9. So the job of that candle up there is to try and break this trend through here. I say try because it's not given that it will. So see how that goes. And the job of this one that you see happening now was to move that trend, and it has. So yeah, enjoy. Hopefully you got something out of that. And let's see how the week ends up. Like, subscribe, and all that stuff, and we'll keep these coming. Cheers.